Hello and welcome to the delivery pipeline episode. Congratulations, you made it through the journey of all 5 pipelines to get here. If you started with me from the beginning, then you began in marketing, thinking about how to talk about yourself. Then you moved into engagement, sharing that marketing with specific targets. From there, those conversations turned into relationships and you gained the confidence to ask for some meetings. The leads started saying yes, you met, you saw potential fit both ways, uncovered their lead score and their goals and objectives, and then you moved them into the development pipeline. You kept nurturing that relationship, sharing insights, connecting your work with their success until a real opportunity appeared. Then you moved it into sales. You separated yourself from the competition, landed the deal, and then turned those leads into clients. Now you're here in delivery where you get to live up to the promise that you made. This is the big moment, so congratulations. In all honesty, delivery is one of my favorite parts of this whole system because it's the pipeline that connects your BizDev team to your operations team. It's where producers, heads of production, and project managers can start taking the lead. They get to own this space. And it doesn't matter what kind of project management or production software that you may use, Timmy, Monday, Asana, whatever. You could tie it all back into the delivery pipeline inside of your CRM. And we'll talk more about interesting ways to do that in the demo. But first, what I want to talk about is the spirit of this pipeline and why it matters. I hear from production company owners all the time who say, I wish my producers were more involved in sales. They want their delivery team to contribute to the business growth, and they're not wrong for wanting that. The challenge is the producers usually enter the picture near the end of the sales process. They execute, deliver, and then they usually just move on. Rarely do they see the full journey that led that client to them. But when you bring the delivery team into the CRM and they can see where the client started, or even better, helped attract and nurture that lead in the first place, then that's when they begin to understand the whole story. And when they understand the story, they become more invested. They start to act like account managers. They care about how the client grows, not just how the project delivers. It's kind of human nature. The more we know about something, the more we like it. The more we like it, the more we want to protect it. That's what happens when your delivery team can see the full client lifecycle inside of the CRM. They start owning the outcomes, not just deliverables. That's the real transformation here. This is the pipeline that turns a producer from a project manager and into a business developer. And when that happens, your whole company just gets stronger. Now, if you want to take this account management idea even further, I just want to give another plug to Jenny Plant. I mentioned her earlier in the development pipeline episode. She's one of the best trainers I know for helping delivery teams act like account managers. And so what I'm showing you here is the structure, the symptoms, and the prompts and the thinking and all that goes on. What Jenny teaches is the muscle memory, the reps, and that kind of deeper client management practice. So if you want to level up your producers, have them check out that training. But in regards to the pipeline itself, there are 3 products that come out of this stage. First, of course, is the campaign that you made for the client. Second is the marketing that comes from that campaign. And third is the opportunity to grow the client when they go right back into the development pipeline. So the delivery pipeline produces those 3 things, and that's what makes this stage so powerful. It prevents your projects from just becoming one-offs. It turns them into cycles that build upon each other and creates new opportunities. This is where the system totally proves itself. So that's the spirit of the delivery pipeline. Now let's jump into the demo, and I'll walk you through the stages and show you how this looks in Copper. And I've got a little treat for you, a little next level setup that will take this thing even further. So let's dive in. All right, we're back in Copper, and now we are inside the delivery pipeline. And just a side note about pipelines here, there's actually 3 kinds of pipelines. I thought I would just kind of walk you through here. So in the delivery pipeline is a project-based pipeline, and I can see that it's called project. And if I'm moving cards over here, then I would see that the statuses of them change. So they go from done to on hold or won't do. That's the status updates on those. The same is true for marketing. You can see it's a project-based pipeline. But if I'm doing like sales and development and engagement, the more business ones, then it's called an opportunity pipeline. And as you may recall, if I'm moving cards over through these stages, then their status is changed to won, abandoned, lost. And there's like these little subtle differences that are really kind of nice because they are relevant more to the responsibilities and activity in those pipelines, but they're so familiar that you're just using the same muscles. So it's a kind of a nice mix of having kind of more business-oriented stuff and project-oriented stuff in the one system. It works really well. And there's a third kind of pipeline that I thought I would talk to you about here while we're just kind of on the subject, and that is an item pipeline. And the way I've seen this used before is in the production business. If you're managing some kind of licensing and renewal and compliance work on behalf of a client for a campaign, so whether that's music licensing or casting licensing or some other kind of things that need to get renewed, that would be a good use of an item pipeline where it's just an assembly line kind of activity. It's all in stages. It might be around like timing, and you would have all those stages here. You'd make sure the client gets through that. You could have workflow automations and triggers in this, and then cause certain actions. You do something somewhere else, it could change it here. You could have task and notifications and reminders set up in this so that nothing ever falls through the cracks. If another producer that you hired just came into the team, for instance, they would be able to just go right here and see what needs to get done, when, where, and how. There would be no going to multiple places to figure it out. Everything that you're doing is in one spot. So kind of another way of delivery that I thought would be relevant to this conversation. So 3 kinds of pipelines. And while I'm here, just a reminder, if you want to create new pipelines, I could do that here in new pipelines. And you could choose from some of these templates here, or you can start from scratch, which is what I usually do, and just kind of make my own, and then you would hit that and you would be here. Opportunity with money and financials, and I can track that, or project, not tracking financials, although you could if you wanted to. And then the item, you could just pick what you want to do there. And the other way you would get to this exact same spot, and I think it's worth noting, is customized Copper. And I always kind of want to remind you about this because there might be times when you're like, oh, I want to do this thing, or I have an idea about what I want to do. And most of the time you can do it, and you're going to go into Customized Copper and you're going to get the settings field. And so in this case, I have pipelines and stages. Here's the pipelines that I have. And if I create a new one, I get back to the same spot. So 2 ways to kind of get there. I just want you to see, and the 3 different kinds of pipelines that we have. Okay. But back to the delivery pipeline. There are basically 2 ways that you can use it. The first is if you're using Copper itself as your project management tool. So I've seen a number of companies use a combo of some kind of custom-made spreadsheets and Copper together to keep production in order. And basically they manage everything directly inside of Copper. And each of their stages in their delivery pipelines are actually, they get really specific, like not these ones here, but something like down to like line items and approvals and delivery milestones, really specific in their pipeline. And they're managing everything inside of Copper for the project, and they might have like an auxiliary spreadsheet for call sheets and stuff like that. So that's one way of doing it. The second way, and this is what most production companies do that I work with, is to use Copper alongside a production management platform like Timmy or Wrapbook, Hot Budget, Studio Binder, Monday, whatever, or some other kind of custom spreadsheet tool that they've made for themselves. And so the delivery team in that situation is spending their time day to day in that production software that they have and doing things like budgeting and scheduling, managing crew, call sheets, etc. But then they are syncing parts of that activity right back here into the delivery pipeline view in Copper. So this could include like auto-advancing jobs through these stages, tracking budget actuals, syncing contacts, etc. And this is really nice because it means producers don't have to do double entry of the data. And the folks in the company, the account managers, the executives, marketing people, salespeople can instantly see where every project stands with the level of detail that you desire. So let's walk through the typical stages of the delivery pipeline in that scenario, and then I'll show you how a production company, like a production integration, might work for you, okay? So the first stage is contracting and advance billing, and that's this bit right here. So this might be what your, this is where the project's going to land after a sale has happened, right? So you're in the sales pipeline, you land the deal, you won the deal. Remember, when you win the deal, you're going to copy that record into the delivery pipeline, and more times than not, it's going to land in this stage because This is where the statements of work and necessary paperwork are getting finalized and invoices for the first payments are being sent, etc. It's all in here. And then once all that is complete, the job moves to pre-production, right? So I might take this and move it over to pre-production now. And keep in mind that as you're doing all of these types of things, you can have data in here that's updating, that's coming from your production software, and from here going to that. So there's even details within the cards in addition to kind of moving them along. But just for the sake of the conversation, when you're in prep, this is where the team is building the foundation for the shoot, right? You're hiring crew and scouting locations, finalizing budgets, drafting call sheets, whatever, confirming schedules, the drill. And then, of course, in production, that's when the project moves to production here. And this is the execution phase, filming and photography, animation, whatever the job requires. And then from there, the project moves into post. So it goes into post-production, the stuff here, editing, color, sounds, graphics, versioning. This is where the rounds of reviews all happen here. And then the next comes wrapping, when you're delivering the final files and confirming, QC, archiving media, whatever it might be, processing payments. You just have that right here, and wrapping. And then after that comes final building, when you're closing out the invoices and reconciling expenses, hopefully measuring the job's profitability. You'd have that right there. And then there's the client, the internal debrief and the client debrief. These are the most overlooked steps, but they shouldn't be, because internal debrief is how you're going to capture ideas for marketing and your next engagement strategy, right? All that stuff we talked about in the beginning. And in the client debrief is where you're going to grow, no matter if the job was a huge success or if there wasn't the best outcome. Either way, you're going to grow, because if it was a huge success, that's where you're going to ask for referrals and for introductions. And if there was something to learn from to make it better, you need to do that too and have those honest conversations. Fix things, right? Do not skip the debriefs. And also really important is the marketing pipeline. Remember, every completed project should produce something that you can market out to the world, right? It's really important that you get things into this marketing stage and have that conversation so that every completed project produces something that you can market. Okay. Even if it's a gripe, I might add, remember, if you want your expert opinion on the business, right? You want on the industry, so a person who shares that belief can find you. So make sure you do that. And then, of course, finally, the project moves to archived. So you have that there. At this point, everything is complete, all the data, the files, but everything stays here, right? It's all connected to the client record for future referencing or for reporting. Remember, if I wanted to see everything, I just go to all projects here, and this would be the legacy of everything that you've worked on would be here, which should be hundreds and hundreds of records here. And if you wanted to see them, you would just create filters and segment them based on who owned the project, the budgets of the project, the timelines of the project. Maybe you do a combination of live production and events as well as video. You could have those separated and just look at the different jobs in any kind of way you want, all right? So that's how that all works. So now, depending on how your systems are set up, all of the work being done in your production management system can automatically update these cards and stages. So everything from tasks to budgets, to contacts, to status, and more can be synced back and forth in real time. That's what makes a well-made CRM such a powerful kind of single source of truth, as I like to say. And now, let me show you something really cool. Because earlier in this series, I mentioned a production platform called Timmy that was recently integrated directly with one of my clients' Copper systems. And if you don't know, Timmy's a really great production management tool specifically for commercial production, from scheduling to budgeting to call sheets, wrap reports, the whole bit. And they built a really cool integration for Copper clients that I want to show you. And on a side note, I want to say this is another reason why I enjoy working with Copper so much. They're really responsive and open to collaboration. I mean, it's almost like they even seem to like taking on the challenges with some customers. And that's how we were able to build Timmy integration with Copper. So, as you'll see here, this is some pretty sophisticated syncing between Timmy and Copper. It automatically appear in either system, no matter where it starts or where it's updated. So To give you a little sample of how this works, I've asked Alex at Timmy to do a little demo for this episode, so here you go.
In this video, we'll add an opportunity in Copper and show how simple it is to trigger the creation of a new project in Timmy. We'll then create an estimate in Timmy and demonstrate how relevant information is synced back to Copper. Let's start by adding an opportunity. We'll add some basic information. We know you don't always have everything you need to get started, so we can work with the basics. We've configured this instance of Timmy to open a new project when an opportunity moves to the presentation stage. Let's drag the opportunity there to begin the process. We can configure Timmy to attach to any one of your stages in Copper and can also support multiple pipelines. We can even trigger the creation of a new opportunity. Switching to Timmy, we can see the project has already been created. As part of this process, Timmy can be configured to do a wide variety of things automatically. Timmy can create full custom project folder structures, initiate Slack channels, open Frame.io projects, and a host of other things too. Let's create an estimate. We'll add some hours and imagine this estimate has been shared with the customer and is already approved. Specifics of the estimate are shared back to Copper. Timmy project information is automatically stored and kept updated in custom fields in the opportunity in Copper. This is great, but we're all working on multiple things at a time. So we added a new place to view and interact with projects in Timmy without having to leave Copper. Over in the sidebar, you'll notice a link to Timmy projects. As changes happen in Timmy, they're automatically synced to this page, effectively making this a live feed. Here, BizDev and customer success can monitor progress for all of the projects and can get updates in real time as they happen in Timmy. You can sort, filter, and even download a CSV. We can also give some users the ability to update their projects here too. Of course, we have lots of configuration options, and like Copper, Timmy can be customized to suit your needs. But this integration makes it so that business development and production data remain separate while providing appropriate levels of visibility without any additional effort.
Pretty nice, right? As you can see, that syncing can begin even before a job is won and is still sitting in the sales pipeline. It could be in any pipeline. And I know that Timmy is planning to continue adding features to this integration, so keep checking in on this. And I believe Copper has added this Timmy integration to their marketplace. So all you have to do is, to get this thing up and running is make a few clicks and do some basic field mapping and you're set up. So that's pretty fun. Okay, there you go. That's the beauty of a connected system. Your production software and your CRM working together so that everyone from your sales and creative and operations, they all see the same truth. And that's the delivery pipeline. It's the bridge between promise and proof. It's where the work happens, where the relationships deepen, hopefully, and also where the next opportunity starts from. All right, there you go. That wraps up the delivery pipeline demo. Now you've seen all 5 of these pipelines. You've seen how they all connect. Marketing, engagement, development, sales, delivery, each one building momentum for the next one. And when you connect them all together, that's when your operating system really starts to hum, okay? In the next episode, I'm going to go through some technical parts of Copper, like a couple automations and report tools that might help you. So let's dive into that.